Well, that was disconcerting. For some reason, Twitch did not want to connect. Ugh. Well, let's hope that goes through all right. So, let's get the Twitter sent out real quick. Get our bot in here and send out our Discord posts. All right. So, hello everyone. This is Chris Ingerson, and it is April 6th, and this is the April 6th TextQuest Devstream. So, today we are going to be focusing on some mostly custom adventure stuff. We're going to start off with a little bit of loading screen adjustments. Specifically, I want to cycle in instructional flavor text. Excuse me. Ah, stupid cough won't go away. I have the consumption. Anyway, so we're going to be doing some flavor text adjustment, specifically adding some instructional flavor text to all of the loading screens. Essentially, it's probably going to do like either a one to one like bit of world lore flavor text, then show an instructional comment, then flavor text, then instructions and flavor text. Basically, a way to kind of like cycle through some hints about gameplay to the players, just to help give them some interesting, well, not interesting, some informative and potentially useful ideas that they might not have realized due to either missing it in the tutorial or it's just a sort of subtle thing that the game does that I don't really have a good way to teach you besides just telling you about it. Hopefully that will not be too much of a thing really with most of the mechanics, but there's a fair amount of subtle interactions in the input system that kind of are hard to really teach. So it's probably just easiest to say like, and here you go, and it's a feature, and that would only be reserved for features that are nice but not necessary for progression. So essentially, like for example, being able to press up or down to cycle through your inputs, like that's not something that I feel like I need to teach players, but I can just tell them on the loading screen. Um, Anywho, so that's going to be the first thing that we do today. That shouldn't take us too long, and then we'll move on to some um, custom adventure tweaks. I'm thinking of not necessarily completely redoing, but redoing the UI for custom adventures to be more streamlined and less bulky, because it's currently using all of the same fonts as our default menus, and that is somewhat problematic just because of how it's set up. Like the font is so large that it's hard to fit lots of information on screen. And I would, in a situation where you're trying to allow people to create content, you want to try and give them um, as nice of an interface as possible and allow them to see as much information as possible without being overwhelming, and without being and you want to avoid not showing enough information and being overly restrictive in what you show, because then it makes it tedious to spool through and actually see what or get to what you want to do. So we're going to be looking at that a little bit later on today. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and get going on loading screens. And to give you a sense of where that is currently, the way it works, each loading screen has a set of flavor text that it pulls from, and then it will show basically that particular bit of flavor text, and it'll just kind of cycle through one at a time. I'm going to go ahead and do a new game. We're just going to show you the default loading screen. So we'll say Chris, yes, normal, green, yes, and, oh, right, sorry. Ooh, that was weird. Did I not type R before? Oh. That's, hold on, I'm going to watch the Twitch. Yes, cat, I see you. Oh, it's because I didn't. Okay, never mind. False alarm. I thought that I typed right, or R, and it did not work for some reason, but I just had typed YR. Favorite color, green, yes, and yes. So, you can see that we have this flavor text that shows up. It's basically a little bit of it's a way for me to just kind of put some information about the world into the loading screens, just to add a little bit of flavor, make it somewhat interesting to read, so that you're not bored when you're transitioning between the levels. most of them will have actual animations. The initial one is kind of a little sparse, um, but the other ones have, if you remember, say the actual animation of the player walking down the stairs, if you're doing the loading screen to the sewer level, or falling into the magic vortex. That's what happens in the transition from the sewer to the plains. Um, Basically, it's a way showing the method that the player character uses to get from point A to point B. And in addition to that, we want to show these little bits of lore. So what I would like to do is essentially just cycle it so that once you show, one of the lore, then the next thing you'll show will be a little tidbit that's like, try typing a variety of verbs on different objects, or something like that. So pretty basic. Let's go ahead and, oh, really, look at that. Our fmod errors are back because of course they are. Huh. All right. Well, that's pretty terrible. Oh, well, at least it only happens for one frame. Still, though, it's very annoying. Um, okay, so the way that that's set up, let's go ahead and look at our UI real quick. I am going to go to our view prefabs. We're going to go to our loading. Here we are. So you can see that we have all of these bits of flavor text. And what we need to do is, so when we select these, you can see that we have little bits of text here. But what I need to do is I need to create one of these that just straight up has some general information. So we'll go ahead and do right-click create folder, and I'm going to call this general. Create. Let's see, it should be text quest collection. Okay, so now it's under SOS text quest. And here is where I don't remember exactly. I'm going to assume it's this. Nope, it's not that. What are these actual objects? These are loading screen flavor text, as opposed to level flavor text, which is nothing. That was actually the old loading system. So SOS text quest. Let's see. Flavor text, level names, loading screen flavor text. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to call this loading text general. All right. And this is essentially, well, we can parse it from CSV. Let's go ahead and let me pull that up real quick. Because I do have those CSVs kind of put together in one thing. Give me a second. I really wish I knew why Google Drive has this like little bit of a lag spike before it actually becomes usable. All right, design. Flavor text. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this. We're going to rename this to general. And the reason that I do this stuff in a spreadsheet on Google Drive, as opposed to just doing it in the editor, is because if for some reason data becomes corrupted in the editor, which very rarely happens. In fact, it almost never does, but I have seen it happen before. It's always good to have a backup somewhere. Plus, it's just easier to type into a spreadsheet and then download a CSV than it is to kind of like manually type into a field in Unity where you have no spell check. Although, admittedly, not like you have spell check in here very easily. In any case, before I forget, we're probably going to be doing mostly coding today, so I'm going to throw that up. All right, so this is going to be filled with largely informative text like, let's see, try typing, I don't like TT, typing different verbs on objects can variety of effects. Typing different verbs on objects. That doesn't make sense. That's a bad phrasing. Typing different verbs on objects can yield a variety. Maybe I should say trying different actions. So, trying different actions on objects can yield a variety of effects. For example, well, that's too big. How about something like this? Open is different from take. That's very long. I don't really like that. So that's one of the things that I'm going to have to be careful with. With these particular entries, like I can't make it too long because certain loading screens might have shorter requirements or shorter allowances for their their text areas. So I have to somewhat limit this. This might even be too long. Trying different actions on objects can yield a variety of effects. Open is different. That's not a great phrase. Let's see. Trying different actions on objects can yield a variety of effects. How about this? Eat. Eat apple is different from take. Trying different actions on objects can yield a variety of effects. Eat apple is very different from take apple, for example. I suppose that's okay. That's pretty blatant what it's doing, but it's loading screen text. It's kind of meant to be direct. So, okay. Let's see. You can use the arrow keys to cycle previous inputs when interacting with objects. If you ever get stuck, why can't I spell stuck? You can try. You can type hint. If you ever get stuck, you can type hint for tips on how to progress. Let's try to get like 5 or 6 of these just so that we can have some amount of content there. Let's see. Press. Oh, that sucks. Okay. Shoot. If you can rebind open inventory, then that complicates things. Actually, I am kind of curious. Let's go up here to Unity, text quest, build, text quest, settings. I think this is what I want. There we go. Let's see, move forward, move back, move right, crouch, jump, sprint, auto move, rotate up, rotate down, rotate left, interact, alt, open inventory. Okay, so I did make that bindable. That is so difficult. So I guess. All right. Inventory key to open your inventory and see items you have. I'm guessing I should probably make that like a square bracket like Oh man. Oh man, that is really rough. Okay. I kind of want that to actually be um an inline sprite actually, so that I could basically show what looks like the key for the I, not just the letter I. That's something I wanted to do for a while for a variety of things, so I might have to look into that. Oh dear. Hmm. Okay, for now I'm just going to do that. Press inventory key to open your inventory and see items you have. So we've talked about hints, we've talked about the inventory, um, talked about using the arrow keys to cycle previous inputs. Um, let's see. What would I also want to do? You can close the input menu by. Hmm, oh, geez. Hmm. I can't spell with no text input. You can close the interaction menu by right-clicking or pressing submit key, or pressing the submit key with no text input. Let's go ahead and change that to when, or how about this, when the input is empty. You can close the interaction menu by right-clicking and pressing enter when the input is empty. I thought that's when the input field is empty. There we go. Yeah, that's better. Um, okay, so that's 5. Trying different actions on objects. Blah, blah, blah. If you ever get stuck, you can type hint for tips on how to progress. Press the inventory key to open your inventory and see any items you have. You can close the interaction menu by right-clicking or pressing the submit key when the input field is empty. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just say file, download as, comma separated values, show that in Explorer. Okay, go ahead and put that in there. This is, I suppose, none is what I would want there because it's not a level, it's for all of them. So let's go ahead and say refresh. Oh, right, it doesn't trim those. Oh man, okay. Let's fix that. So that sucks a little bit, but that's not terrible. Okay, okay. I think I'm actually also going to go ahead and change this up so that these are text areas, just so that they're a little bit easier to look at and review. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make these text area. It's gonna be 3 and 5 probably is honestly enough. So let's go ahead and let that go. That's just gonna make it so that these are not single line text fields. They're multi-line text areas basically that will be a little bit easier to type and read into. So I think the approach that I'm going to have here is just to have a have the main loading screen prefab have a reference to this particular general loading text, and then it will just cycle between the two essentially, which should work because these, I believe, have an index, but I could be wrong. Here we are, yeah. So level is none, which is a little awkward, but okay. That's fine. Basically, all I'm doing is setting session values, so that works. That's fine with me. So yeah, this is much easier for us to look at, and because it wraps, it means it's easier for me to double check that everything looks right. Let's get rid of these double quotes. Oh, that's the downside. Yeah, I can't hit enter. Okay. So with this, we need to basically write some special keys or special recognition for keys. Excuse me. Which means that I'm going to have to basically replace this with a very specific set of values, which I'm going to have to figure out. So for now, we're just going to let this go. We're going to try to get this to function the way that we want. Okay, let's go ahead and open up loading view. And I'm going to go ahead and add serialized field, private, loading screen, flavor text, and this is going to be general, or how about this? Loading screen tips is equal to null, I guess. I don't want to call it like tip text. That's kind of awkward. Doesn't roll off the tongue very well. Flavor text. How about general tips? Okay, let's tooltip this. Flavor text contain general gameplay tips shown between flavor texts in loading screens. Okay. Looks like flavor text values in loading screens. Okay. General tips. That's all fine. All right. So what we need to do is, one, I need to check where this is. Get flavor text. Okay. All right. I'm assuming that this is where we go. Yes. So we're going to go to definition here. This is our flavor text. We're going to add another thing. Loading screen flavor text. General tips. Okay, so we're going to pass that in. Make that incorrect. General tips. Okay, let's go back to here. And I'm going to come down to here. We're just going to say protected. Loading screen flavor text. General tips. Trying to initialize my reference values with null now, just because I know in 2018.3, if you don't declare them as null, then it warns you. It sends out warnings to your console, which is annoying. This dot general, oops, that's not how you spell general. General tips is equal to general tips. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's see. So we've initialized that, but now we need to actually reference our flavor texts, which I think is in our. That is a question. Where does it go? It must be referenced in child ones. Yeah. Oh, that sucks. How very unfortunate. Right. Crap. That makes it so much more difficult. Mm, I think I could probably do a virtual function here. So let's see. We're going to come down to here. Protected virtual string get flavor text. And I believe that's all this is, right? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to come down to here. We're going to do this pretty straightforward. So all we're going to do is we are going to have a protected int value, I guess. No, it's probably going to be a bool, protected bool. Show general tip is equal to false. All right. So what we're going to do here is when we call get flavor text, we're just going to say show general tip is equal to not show general tip. And then we're going to go up to the very top here and we're going to say if show general tip, blah, 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 else. Oh, mm, right. Crud. All right, so I have to do this. I don't like doing this way, but I do need to. Okay, so we have to do show general tip there. We have to do it twice because I don't want to do it before the if check. Otherwise, the first time it's shown will be, or the first hint that's shown will be a general hint or a general tip, and I don't want that. So I have to do it this way, which sucks. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and say return. So this is general tips dot get flavor text. And otherwise, we're going to call return flavor text dot get flavor text. Okay. I believe that automatically increments it. Nice. Okay. Okay. So all we're going to do now is we're just going to replace basically the functions where we call flavor. Excuse me. This with this function. Okay. Paste that in there. We don't need to worry about that. Okay, so we're going to paste that. And we're going to paste that. Okay. Let's go ahead and go to definition here, and I'm going to comment this real quick. Returns the expected flavor text alternating between level specific values and general tips. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and let that compile. And all we should have to do now is add the reference that I was talking about, and then we should be good. So let's go. Oh dear. Did I do something stupid? Oh, right. Right. Hold on. Yeah. Forgot this part. Since I made that virtual, I have to make sure that my overrides are actually correct. So that. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, so let's go ahead and let that compile. One more. Okay, that should do it. So while that's compiling, I'm going to take a drink because I need it. Oop, looks like there's one that snuck past. Oh, okay. It's a test. All right, so that should, in theory, make everything work about how you would expect. One day it will compile and then we'll be fine. Come on. All right, so let's go ahead and I need to assign that value. I really need to clean up some of the warnings in this project just because it's quite annoying. All right, let's go ahead and do that. We want general. Okay, let's hit save and hit play. So now when we do a new game, what should happen is we should basically be alternating between the general hints that we had and the level specific flavor text. So let's go ahead and click there, start. Let's do a new game. Yes, normal, right, green, yes, and yes. Okay, so we'll let this load. Okay. Seems to be working as we would expect. Use the arrow keys to cycle previous inputs when interacting with objects. Okay. I also feel like I should do justification on this loading screen so that everything's actually like set up correctly to be justified left. It's kind of weird to have it all be centered like that. It makes it look a little weird. If you get stuck, you can type hint for tips on how to progress. Okay. So that seems to be correct. Okay. So let's let that go. So I'm happy with that. We do need to experiment with setting up our flavor text to show specific key values as icons. And before I do that, I think I need to go to Text Mesh Pro. Okay, it's somewhere around here. A second here. standard assets. Oh, there it is. Okay. I think we want resources and TMP settings. Give that a second. And we want font sprites. Right. Which we're not actually using, I don't believe. I think I just cheated. Let me go ahead and jump over to the castle just to be doubly sure about that. Intro, castle. Because I would have used those in the tutorial paintings, and I'm reasonably sure that these are straight up images because they are. Okay, so that's good. Although this can certainly change its height. I have no idea why it's so tall. I generally try to make these like a little closer to what they actually need to be. Okay. Especially because this one isn't actually going to have to change at all. Oh, this one. Oh, that's right. It's a canvas. Some of them had to be canvases because of the image stuff. Womp womp. All right. Well, let's go ahead and let that save. So I can freely replace this this font sprites asset because currently it was just using these two things, and we're not actually using that. So let me double check because it'll be over here too. So okay. Yep. Cool. So we're gonna make a handful of basically icons representing keys on the keyboard, which is it's kind of gonna suck, but we will we'll deal with that. So let's go ahead and open up Photoshop, which is going to open on my left monitor. So I will have to drag that over when it's actually finished. And I'm just going to make, I think it's going to be 512 by 512 image, honestly. So let's go ahead and do create new. We're just going to do like 512 by 512. I don't think I need to get any bigger than that. Drag that over here. And all we're really going to do is essentially just make a sprite sheet with all of the keys on the keyboard, or at the very least the main keys, which is probably going to be escape, the F keys, although actually no, I probably will. We'll see. And yeah, all the letters and numbers and such, and we should be good. So that means that we're probably going to bump this up to some art today, because we are doing that a little bit. All right, so to get started, I'm going to go ahead and do a fill layer. I'm just going to go ahead and just selection here. Oh man, everything's on the left. Oh, stop it. I'm just going to load this up. We're going to paint bucket this. We're going to do a 50% gray fill. That way we can just have something to look at. It'll be a little bit easier to work on than having our checkerboard pattern, just because that's a little hard to look at for after a while. Let's go ahead and make our first keys. So we're going to say escape. It's going to be our border. And this is actually going to be pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and do a couple of things to start. I'm going to come up here. We're going to select our correct Commodore 64. We don't want any anti-aliasing. Our color is going to be white. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just say escape. Actually, it's going to be ESC because that's usually what it's shown as. Let's see. So this is 512 by 512. I'm reasonably confident that I can make this work. Probably for the time being, I will focus mostly on the major function key, so that's escape, tab, shift, control, and alt. Although actually it's probably just going to be control. And then letters and numbers. I'm not going to worry about individual keys, and then I guess arrows. And enter and shift. Oh, man, I have too many. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to... How do we want to stylize these? Easiest thing to do would probably be to do 8 by 8. Okay, so let's go ahead and do 64. Yeah, I'd say that's good. So let's go up here to the border. So let's do 64 by 8. I'm reasonably confident that we can do this. Okay. And let's go ahead and move the escape key over. We're going to make this 24, 18. Oh dear, that is really not looking good. Let's go back to 30. That sucks. And I'm also going to, real quick, go here, delete these. So we have a little bit of a kind of rounded look. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. All right. This is unfortunate, so I'm going to have to do 18, I guess, if we want it to really go anywhere. Can I do 20 instead? 20 looks way better, so we'll stick with that. Okay, so that's our escape key. So these are in basically 64 by 64 grids. So I will try to stick to that. Oh, excuse me, got the hiccups. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I wonder if I should make this longer. Gross. Because keys like shift and enter and tab are typically not squares, they're more rectangular, so I might end up doing like a 128 for them. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate, escape. I'm going to call this enter. Let's go ahead and drag that over by 64, and then I'm going to straight up just move this. Okay. I think we want to move it another 64. If I'm not mistaken, except I probably am. So let's go ahead and do that. This is the most awkward thing ever. Trying to make sure that this is in the correct spot. Okay. Okay, so that's correct. So let's go ahead and grab this border. And we're going to transform this, and I really, why do you do that? I haven't figured out how to do this with the new Photoshop. You used to be able to just like drag this, but it seems to be preserving our aspect ratio. It's preserving it! Why are you doing that? Stop it. I just want you to move it. Nope. Nope. This is where I can't have nice things. Thanks, Photoshop. They changed how that used to work, or how it did work. So I have to manually add this back in. Used to be so much easier. Okay, we're going to go ahead and rename this. This is going to be called Enter. Let's go ahead and drag this to be about there. We're going to bump that up to our 30-point font. That is so much better. Right about there. It's a little close to the edges, though, I do admit. I don't really know what to do about that, so I think we'll be fine. All right, so that is the enter key. Let's go ahead and get our tab key in there. You know what? I'm actually just going to make this. I'm going to make all of these special keys be wide, um, just so that they're more easily understood. That also gives me more visually consistent language, so players will know that number keys and letter keys, as well as normal punctuation keys, are squares, whereas special function keys like escape, tab, shift, control, and all that are double wide. So that makes it a little bit easier visually for us to deal with. So let's go ahead and delete this. Actually, you know what? No, we're not going to delete that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just rename this. And this is going to be just A. And then we're going to move A down to about there. And we're going to slide enter over to here. And then we're going to duplicate that. We're going to call this escape. We're going to slide that over to here. Okay, it is too wide, which means we're going to tank this down to 24, which is acceptable, question mark. Oof, this is a little rough looking. Minimize that a little bit more. Okay, did it not move at all? Really? Woof. Gotta really crank that in there. Okay. I don't like having different sized fonts, but it is something that I'm going to have to live with. Okay. So that's that. Real quick, let's go ahead and just set this up to be A. And then we can change that to be back to 30, I'm going to guess. I probably want that to be centered-ish, somewhere around there. All right, let's go ahead and after escape, we need tab. Oh, I probably should save this into the correct spot, of course. So text quest art, textures, UI, and we're just going to call this. I don't want to call it font sprites, so I guess this will be like UI sprites. That's terrible. Font sprites is really the best name for it. We'll say text quest inline sprites. TMP inline sprites. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and save that. All right. What is that taking to? Oh, again. Everything was on the left. I hate that when you have two monitors, Photoshop remembers the placement of pop-up windows, which means that if you go back and forth between left and right monitors with the actual main application, then you'll be looking over here trying to do stuff, and it's like, why can't I interact? It's because there's a pop-up window on the left monitor. And vice versa. It sucks. Okay. Let's go ahead and duplicate this. We will call it escape copy, which was stupid. I should have called it tab. So this is going to be our tab. Okay, let's go ahead and come up to here. Bump that up to 30. Okay. So that's enter, tab, so shift, control, and alt are probably the best thing for us. Let me think. I probably should rename control to command on. Oh man. I guess no, because command is the Windows key. I don't know if I should do alt option though. That's a little. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. So we'll have two rows of these special ones basically. Okay, so this is going to be shift. Go ahead and drag that over. Okay. Shift. Oh man, is a terrible I. See, no, the F is fine. The I just needs to go. So let's do 200 because it apparently needs to be pretty fucking extreme. Ugh. All right, so that works. Let's go ahead and let that go. Try to center it a little bit. I think we're good there. All right, let's go ahead and slide. Duplicate that. Let's duplicate shift. We're going to call this one control. I'm just going to slide that all the way over to here. I'm going to grab the A and slide that down to there. Okay, so that's control, pretty straightforward. This one is going to be alt. Let's drag that over to here. Alt. With that, we're going to need their variations. So we're going to call this command, which is actually a little wonky because I think it's CMND, unless it just straight up says command. Give me a second. I'm going to go grab my MacBook real quick. Okay. Gotta readjust my headset. All right. So command is just spelled out. It's not CMND. However, I am pretty sure that it is shortened to CMND normally. So I'm going to leave it like that for now. And if people are confused by that, I will change it. Actually, probably what I'll do is I'll do a little bit of research to make sure that that's correct. And my assumption is not just something I pulled out of nowhere. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this. And I'm going to call this option. And that is because on Macs, the Alt key is usually called option. Now, it does actually have Alt listed on there, but this is a quality of life thing that I would like to do. So on Macs, it would basically show command instead of control and option instead of Alt, because that's how their keyboards are stylized. We do have to change our font size, though. 24. Okay, that looks good. Could look better. I don't like the lopsidedness of it, but all right. So those are our special characters. Let's go ahead and save that. We are going to go ahead and group these up by special keys. Let's go ahead and drag all of those up into there. Then we're going to do letters. Okay, and this should be pretty straightforward. So we're going to do B. We'll do there. Let's go ahead and grab this. B. Okay, let's duplicate this. We'll call this C. This will fortunately go pretty quickly because it's all very basic replacements. And unlike our command ones, we only have single letters that we have to replace. I should have called that D instead of C copy, though. Oh, good. There we go. So this is D. D. And now we can duplicate all of these, actually. And then we'll slide them all over. Okay, so this is E, F, G, H. Okay, so this is H, Okay, let's go ahead and copy all of these. Just gonna slide them down. Okay, so let's go ahead. So this is I, J, oops. I hate that. There's no good way to switch into shortcuts from text, as far as I know. I'm sure there has to be, but well, it's just annoying that I have to like manually come up and click on this to deselect it. N O and P. Gotta keep good naming conventions, otherwise I'm just a monster. It's one thing that I had drilled into my head as a student when I was doing really any kind of digital art class, whether it be motion graphics or 3D modeling. Like, you gotta name everything. If you don't, it's just chaos. Okay, let's see. Let's go ahead and duplicate this again. We're gonna come down. Oh man, this is gonna suck really hard when we make the actual sprites. Okay, so Q R S T U V W X. And for this, by the way, on W, W and M both need to be moved slightly to the left. Okay, what the frig? There we go. That is because W and M are the widest characters in the alphabet. Specifically, M is actually the crap. What's the term? Oh, I guess namesake would be somewhat correct. For the term MEM, so you can actually measure how wide a character is by how many M's it is. It's a fun little bit of typography, random trivia for you. So typically when you're actually doing padding on something, you'll just like shove a bunch of M's in there to see how wide it can get. Okay, so we want to duplicate, I think, just Q and R, because we just need Y and Z. Let's go ahead and duplicate this. Save that out. Let's go ahead and move this down. Okay. Move these up to here. We're going to call this X, Y, and Z. Oh, and before I forget, I need to move the M over just a smidge. There we are. Alright, so let's go ahead and call this Z and Y. Okay, so that is all of our letters. So next I need to do numbers, then arrows, and then I think we'll be good. I suppose I should probably have a special character for backspace. Probably. Don't know how I feel about that. But all right. Excuse me. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to make a new folder. We're going to call this numbers. Oh, and I also need punctuation, I suppose. So let's go ahead and just real quick, we're going to duplicate Z. I'm going to call this 1. Let's go ahead and duplicate that, move that over. There we are. Oh, that's kind of not great. reasonably sure that these are all set up the same. Right? Yeah. Okay. For some reason I was a little worried about that. Okay. So we're going to make this 1. Duplicate that. We'll call that 2. 3 and 4. Excuse me. 3. Duplicate these 2. Move these over all the way. So this is going to be 5. And, oh. Well, that's interesting. Huh. All right. Didn't mean to affect its opacity, but it did apparently. 5 and 6. Okay, so now we need 4 more. Let's duplicate that. Okay. Move all of that out. All right, so this is going to be 7, 8, 9, and 0. Okay, so that's all of our numbers. And I think now we basically just need punctuation and arrow keys. Arrow keys will actually probably come first, and then we'll do punctuation, and I think we'll have just enough for that. 2, 4, 6. Actually, we'll be a little short. So I need a bigger texture is what that means, which sucks. But for now, this is fine. In fact, I'm not actually going to worry about punctuation for the characters right now. I'm just going to worry about the everything else. So let's go ahead and I'm going to make a new folder. We'll just call this arrows. We're just going to duplicate these 4. Okay, we're going to move these up into arrows. Let's collapse these. And we're just going to slide these over. All right. And here is where it gets a little funky because I think I need to do that. And then I have to rotate it a bunch. So this is going to be interesting. Because there is a kind of arrow character, which is just the upper caret. And essentially I want to just rotate that. So this is going to be down, which I will then rotate 180 degrees. Then up, which I don't need to do anything to, and then right, which I need to rotate 90 degrees, and then left, which I now need to rotate 90 degrees as well. Okay, and because they are now somewhat off, I need to move them up and down, and up actually needs to be 1, oh, whoop, wrong thing, hold on. Up needs to be over 1, and down needs to be over 1, right about there. Oh man, it kind of looks like it actually needs to be over 1 more and down, which means that this needs to be up, I think. It's a little tough to eyeball this exactly. Yeah, I think we can go down 1 more for the left and right. I mean, like right about there. Actually, no. So you can go down 1, but right needs to go up 1. So now they should be, yeah, in line. Okay. So let's go ahead and save this out, and we'll make this into a sprite sheet. So it has pretty much all of our special characters that we need, as well as our numbers and letters. We don't have punctuation, but that is okay for now, I think. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. Hit save. We're going to go ahead and save this out as a PNG file. Hit save. Development, Unity, text quest, art, textures, UI. Okay, let's go ahead and grab that. All right, so we need to make this sprite with multiple sprites. Excuse me. And we're going to call these inline sprites. Alpha is transparency. We want no filter on this. Let's go ahead and hit apply. And oh, this is going to suck real bad trying to get this right. Oof. Okay, I might actually do something a little backwards here. I'm going to actually export it with this background installed, and then I'm going to just replace it. So let's go ahead and save that. And the reason for that is that once I replace it, it'll I can use this background to basically easily see what I'm doing, and then I can just replace it with the transparency once I'm done. Yeah, that'll make it a lot easier. So let's go ahead and go back here to the sprite editor. And we are going to do grid by cell size, 64 by 64. We're going to slice. Okay. And now I can get rid of some of these. And essentially that will... Oh, you suck really hard. Okay, so this one is going to be 128. What? How can you... What? Did I not type 128 correctly? Okay. Okay, and then I can just get rid of these ones. Okay. So let's go ahead and just type these out, I guess. Oof, these are pretty rough name-wise. Escape. This is actually something that I didn't know you could do before, but you can rename these sprites, which will actually change the names of them as sprites when you're searching for them, which makes it much easier. Instead of just having like inline sprite 6, you can actually say inline sprite shift, which makes it much more apparent what you're working with. Option. Okay. Although it is more tedious, obviously. Command. Alt. Control. A. C. D. I wish I had a more automated process for this, because that would make things a lot easier for me. And I'm actually willing to bet that I could write a thing for that, but it would be insanely single use and would not actually be very helpful to me because of that. I guess it would be interesting to do just to learn how to do it. But J. Okay. Oh man, getting like carpal tunnel from doing this. Ugh. And I hate when it does that. Oh. Stop it! I hate when it like inverts my selection. I don't really know why it does that. I think it's because I drag too far down, so it like highlights all of it. Q, R, which I guess means I could actually do the reverse, doesn't it? Yeah. So I can just drag up. S, T, U, V. Oh my god, we're almost done. X, Y, and Z. Oh geez, that's hilarious. I'm actually doing some of that. 3. Oh man, 4. That was the only one that I would have never had to type anything on. What a shame. 7, 8, 9, and 0. Left arrow. Right. Oops. Arrow. Up arrow. And finally down arrow. 55 things. Actually, I think it's probably closer to like 50 because these were doubled up initially. Okay, apply. Let's go ahead and save that. So that certainly makes things a lot easier. Let's go ahead and close this. So now if we want to look at these, you can see that they're grayed. I'm going to go ahead and re-export this with transparency. Then we're going to replace it again. And it should still be fine. It's just now going to have transparency there. Hooray! All right. So let's go ahead and so we're going to go ahead and just assign this reset. Oh dear. Let's go ahead and drag this in. And I thought there was a way to do this. Oh, okay, hold on. Okay. Let's go to Tools, Window, Text Mesh Pro, Sprite Importer, I guess is what I want. Or not? That's a text asset. Hmm. Uh-oh. Is that because I don't have a sprite importer? Okay, so it's not that. Hold on. TextMesh Pro. Really? It's not? Oh. It's been a while since I've had to do this, so give me a second here. Yeah, sprite asset. I guess let's just create a new one. Ah, there we go. Create, so it's automated. No wonder it's kind of wonky. There we go. That is much better. Okay, so let's go ahead and we want to go to collapse all that fun stuff. TMP settings. And then we are going to go ahead and pull in inline sprites as our default value. Okay, we're going to hit save here. And what I'm going to do here now is I need to map specific keys to, oh man, that is very rough. Okay. That might be something that's better for me to do in spreadsheet form, because then it'll be a little bit easier for me to actually update. So let's go ahead and I'm going to come down to here. Interactions, hint, combo descriptions, collection, archive, controls. For now, I guess I'll just put it in the root here. Create and share. All right. So I'm going to call this TMP font sprite mappings, I guess. So this is going to be the key or key code and sprite tag, I guess. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and grab this. Delete columns. We're going to resize these. 200 a piece. Let's go ahead and drag this in. And I think we'll probably be fine if we limit that to 50. I don't like having the 1,000 rows, so I typically like to delete them so it's a little easier to scroll up and down. All right, so this is, how did I format these? Inventory key, submit key, and all that. Oh, man. Okay, so these aren't actually going to be for these keys. These are going to be for the actual key codes, which I guess makes sense. Okay. So this is going to be escape, and then what was it? Inline sprites escape, I think is what I did. Yep, inline sprites escape and enter and all that. Okay, so this is going to be a little tedious. Go ahead and just come down here. So this is going to be enter, enter, tab, tab, shift, oops. Let's see, what else is that? Control, Alt, Command, Option. Why will you not capitalize? Command, Option. and then A, B, oh, geez, you're gonna be annoyed about that. C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, oops, N, O, P, Q, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Then, oh, I knew you were gonna do that. Whatever, it's fine. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0, and then left arrow, right arrow, down arrow. Okay. I wonder if it's smart enough. Nope. Only numbers, huh? Ah, stop it. Okay. Finally. So now I can download this, probably as a CSV. That's fine. Let's go ahead and show in folder. And let's see here. So with that, I am going to want woof. Woof woof. That's pretty bad. I probably need to put it in a special scriptable object. Okay. So let's go real quick down to here. I'm going to say asset store, close this, close that. Okay, so we're going to go up from loading. Key bindings, I suppose, would probably be fine. So let's go ahead and key binding data collection. So we'll go ahead and create it here. Excuse me, I had to cough. So I'm going to call this key binding inline sprites. Collection, I guess. Okay, so let's go ahead and open that up. This is going to be a scriptable object with a set of classes in it that will essentially be able to map those CSV values. So all of these things. So we're going to make this a scriptable object. Let's go ahead and say create asset menu. File name is going to be equal to something, and then menu name is going to be equal to something else. It's going to be SOS text quest. Then I don't really know, so for now I'm just going to go ahead and say key binding inline sprites. inline key binding inline sprites. Okay. We're going to go ahead and say public class key binding sprite data. We're going to go ahead and say system.serializable. It's going to be public key code. Key is equal to keycode.none, and then public string sprite is equal to that, I guess. Yes, and then all we're going to do here is just say, so we're going to use system.collections.generic. We're going to go ahead and say public key binding sprite data dictionary of strings. CSV, I guess is what we'll call that. And then we're just going to say key is equal to CSV of this to enum, and then key code. And then sprite is equal to right, no, that's fine. Before I do anything else, though, I am going to real quick double check what my sprites are. Hold on. Standard assets, asset store, TextMesh Pro, and the user guide is what I want. All right, so in here there should be a section, I believe, on sprites. Specifically inline sprites. Oh, I know why not. Of course not. So that means that it's in. I wish that this was in the actual documentation. All right, I forget what the actual logic is here. Hold on. I'm reasonably sure that it's something like sprite, whatever. So let me go ahead and do scenes, line justification, word wrapping, extra improved text alignment, style tag, link example text, software, multi-font and sprites. Here we go, inline graphics and sprites. Okay, so this is, yeah, okay, so you just say sprite is equal to 2. So we basically want to just do that. And I'm reasonably confident that it's not literally 2. I can be doubly sure of that, though, by default sprite asset. Oh, that sucks. So the ID is just, yeah, that value. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So we're going to do some extra stuff then. So let's go ahead and go back to, where are you? Oh, right, I haven't actually created you yet. I guess it's going to go here. So create SOS text quest, and then key binding inline sprites. Right. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab this. Give me a second here. So we want this to be public string sprite name is equal to that. And we're going to say sprite name is equal to CSV of that. And then sprite is going to be different. So this is going to be a little strange in the sense that We're going to pass in a TM Pro. Hold on. What is this? It is a TMP sprite asset. Okay. So using TM Pro, TMP sprite asset, not animator, asset, sprite asset. Okay. And here is where we're going to, real quick, check this. So key code and sprite tag are our two things here. Key code, sprite tag. So this is basically going to be, oh man, sprite asset dot sprite info list, I'm assuming is what we want. 0 dot ID, which I'm assuming is an int value. Yep. Okay. All right. So that means that we essentially need to do comparisons and such. So we're going to go ahead and say public, oops, not public, public int sprite ID is equal to 0. And then the actual sprite is going to be some type of variation on sprite equals whatever. Basically, it's going to be something like that. Okay. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to say, so sprite asset dot, is there a find or a get? Sprite index from name. There we go. That's exactly what I was hoping for. So sprite index from name, we will give it the sprite name value. We're just going to say sprite ID is equal to that. And then we're just going to say sprite is equal to string.format. And that's going to be sprite ID. And it's just going to be that value again. So sprite is equal to this. Okay. So with that, we're going to come down to here. And we're going to go ahead and say public key binding sprite data key sprite is equal to new key binding sprite data 0. Before that, we're going to go ahead and say public TMP sprite asset is equal to null. Okay, we're going to go ahead and say context menu refresh sprite or key sprites private void refresh sprites. Okay, and all we're going to do here is say, oh, right, I also need my public text asset CSV is equal to null. Okay, take a drink real quick. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and say, well, actually, before we do that, we're going to have to come over here and say using sleepyowl.common. Then we're going to say CSV parser.parse CSV to dictionary. Then we're going to go ahead and say CSV.text. Okay, so this is going to be a list of dictionary of string values. CS. Okay, I'm probably going to call this CSV text or CSV file, actually. Okay, and then we're just going to do for int I equals 0, I is less than csv.count, I plus plus. And before we do anything else, I guess actually I'm going to, well, we can keep that as that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say key sprites is equal to new key sprite data of csv.count. And then we're just going to say key sprites of I is equal to new key sprite data of csv of I. And then we're going to give it a reference to our sprite assets. Okay. And I think that will do pretty much everything that I need. So let's go ahead and let that compile, and then we will test it out. Oh, man. All right. Now, these are pretty basic, so I'm reasonably confident that we'll be able to get it functioning as we would expect anyway. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to drag in our inline sprites assets. Have I not dragged the CSV in yet? I don't think I did. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, let's grab this. We're just going to say refresh key sprites. Really? Well. Oh, right. Right. These are, I believe, I thought it was keycode.enter, but it might be keycode.return. And I think these need to be left shift, left control, left alt, and like left command, left option. So real quick, let me run through and double check that. Also, I'm not entirely sure why I have this debugging right now, but I apparently do, which is a bit odd. So let's get rid of that. That doesn't need to be there. We're going to go ahead and finish this up. So I think, just to be sure, I'm going to look at these one at a time to double check what these key code values should be. Once I can actually look at this anyway. And once it finishes compiling, then I'll actually be able to do something. Until then, we're kind of stuck. Here we are. Okay, so let's see. We have, oh my goodness, you know what I totally forgot in our key list? Is space. I forgot the space bar, because of course I did. So that's kind of an important one, but we're not going to worry about it for now. So I believe we want enter, but it might be return. So let's go for E. Okay, so yeah, there is no enter. It must be return. Right. Command, right Windows, return. Okay, so that's going to be return. Let's go ahead and come up to here. So this is going to be return instead. What other values did we have that were not listed? Let's see. Enter, shift. I'm pretty sure that shift needs to be left shift. Let's see, left arrow. Yeah, it's left shift, which is a space, which makes me think that it's, oh, no, that's fine. So this needs to just be left shift. Left shift, tab, escape. Okay, so those are correct. I believe this is left control and left alt and left command and left option. These two might be the same. Let's find out. Okay, so we want left paren, less, left bracket, left arrow, left shift, left control, left alt, left apple. Okay, left command. There we go. So yeah, it's just left. So that's good. So I think we can re-export these real quick then. So let's give that a shot. So I'm going to go ahead and just say file, download as, CSV. We're going to look at these. Show in Explorer. Let's go ahead and drag this over, replace. Okay. Let's go ahead and try that again. Let's clear these all out. Okay. Still getting these. I do not know why this parser has these debug lines in there. Okay, so left option is the only thing that's not correct. You know what I'm also going to do? I'm going to go ahead and come up here. And I'm just going to make the sprite name be first. That way I can, it'll automatically like stylize our tabs there. Let's see. So, and while I'm in here actually, left, oh, really? Okay, I thought I saw left option there, but maybe I didn't. Arrow, Shift, Control, Alt, Apple, Command, Windows. Okay, so no, it's not a thing. So it's probably because Alt is the exact same, which means that we don't need to have a different one for that. So this will just be left Alt again, which sucks because that makes it difficult. Okay, that's not great. Oh dear. That's okay. Let me think. That is a difficult problem. Because I essentially need to know if there's like a all right. Maybe I should just add a Mac tag to these. So like insert one right. Call this like Mac tag, for lack of a better term. And that would essentially just be me moving this to like here instead. Because then I don't need that entire thing. That would fit a little bit better, I guess. That is problematic, I feel. Well, no, maybe not. Okay, so I think we can do that, and it'll just be stylized a little differently. So let's go ahead and download this one more time. Make sure I delete the old one. File, download as, CSV. Let's go ahead and replace this one more time. Okay, and then before we do anything there, we're going to say So we're going to go ahead and, I guess, just say public string alt sprite name is equal to that. We'll go ahead and have a public string alt sprite is equal to sprite is equal to whatever. Maybe maybe I should just say max sprite name instead. That'll make more sense. Max sprite. And then at the very bottom, we're going to go ahead and say public bool has Mac sprite. This is a little awkward. I don't particularly care for this. Okay, so I called it Mac tag. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and come back here. We're gonna say Mac sprite name is equal to Mac tag. Okay, and then right, we gotta do both of those. So public int Mac sprite ID is equal to 0. Oh, this sucks because now I want to write a custom sprite thing for this. So, okay, give me a second. This is gonna be a thing. We're gonna go ahead and I am just going to go ahead and say so sprite ID max sprite name. We're actually just gonna go ahead and do this. Mac sprites. And we're just going to go ahead and say if Mac sprite name, if not string.is null or empty, Mac sprite name. Why can't I type? Then we're going to go ahead and say has Mac sprite is equal to true. And then we're going to go ahead and say Mac sprite ID is equal to sprite asset dot get sprite from name, max sprite name. Okay, and then max sprite is equal to basically just this. Except this is max sprite ID. Okay, and then in addition to that, I'm going to want to say, right, so after that we are going to come down to here and I'm going to say public string sprite text, say get if application dot, crap, what is it, platform is equal to, I believe we want to say OSX player. I think that's what we want. So we're going to say is equal to OSX player or application dot platform is equal to, and then platform dot OSX editor. Then we're going to do this, else we will return sprite. That's pretty much going to be it. We're going to say if has max sprite, we will return max sprite. Okay, that's a pretty basic check. I think we're good there. All right, I think we're good. So we should be good to let that compile. And while that's happening, what do I call this? Key binding sprite data. Okay, you're gonna let me go. Are you just gonna freeze up on me, Unity? Ah, it is the latter. There we go. Still can't move. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to go down to here. So it's called key binding sprite data. Key binding sprite data. Let's open that up and let's see. text quest namespace. It's pretty much just going to be this. I'm just going to take all of this, get rid of that, hit save, come over to here, paste this in. Go ahead and say using system.collections.generic, and then using TM Pro, and using sleepyout.common. Okay, so that's all that fun stuff. We can close you now. Let's go ahead and all this should stay the same essentially. I moved it to a separate class just because if I have a custom editor for something, then I like having, well, obviously the editor is going to be in its own class file, and that means that I like the original class to be in its own class file as well. So let's go ahead. You know, I'm not entirely sure if that should actually go there. It might be better under data, which I will solve once I can actually open this up. So we're going to say key binding inline sprites. Where is my editor scripts? Okay. Data. What did I call that? Key binding inline sprites. Key binding inline sprites. And it's going to be for key binding sprite data drawer. Key binding sprite data drawer. Also, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that I can get rid of the art tag now. Okay, so we're going to let that open up. Once we have that, we can move our other scripts to this folder. Because it makes more sense that way. Come on. Okay, let's go ahead and let that go. That'll take a second. But we should be good. It's going to reload everything I know because it needs to unload these sprites, or these classes. Oh man, why did I do that? There we go. Alright, so this is going to be in the text quest namespace. We're going to be using sleepyowl.common editor. We're going to be using SOS property drawer. We're going to say custom property. Oh, right, we got to use our Unity stuff. So we're going to say using Unity editor. Say custom property drawer type of, and we're going to say key binding sprite data. Alright, we're going to have to override both property heights and on GUIs. So override on GUI, get rid of that function's contents. We're going to say float height is equal to that, and then we'll return height. Okay, we're going to come down to here. We're going to say if property dot is expanded, and then we're going to do a bunch of stuff. And let's go ahead and go back over to this real quick because I'm going to need to pull all that in. Okay, so we're going to need so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Actually, we don't really need the hazmax sprite. I think we can get away without that. So we can go instead with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, this is where it gets fun. So we're going to need to say height times equals, I believe, 8f, and then we're going to say height plus equals 7 times, or 7, oh, well, hold on. It'll be editor GUI utility dot standard vertical spacing times 7f. That should be good. And then we're going to do our actual drawing. So we're going to say if property dot is expanded, then we're going to say position dot height is equal to editor GUI utility dot single line height. And then we're just going to go ahead and say property dot is expanded is equal to editor GUI dot fold out, then position followed by property dot is expanded. Then our label, which I'm going to actually have to create, and then true because I want it to be toggleable on click. And then we're going to say if property dot is expanded, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so before we do anything else, what I'm going to want to do is say serialized property. This will be our sprite name is equal to property dot find property relative, and then sprite name serialized property, and this will be Mac sprite name is equal to property dot find property relative Mac sprite name, and with that we're going to go ahead and say GUI content new label is equal to, actually, you know what, I guess it's just going to be our base label, might as well. So that means I can do label.text is equal to Mac sprite name dot string value, and I'm going to say string dot is null or empty. So if that is null or empty, then we're just going to go ahead and have our label text just be sprite name dot string value. Otherwise, it's going to be string dot format, and this is going to be sprite name and then our Mac name, excuse me, in parentheses. So what we're going to do there is just say sprite name dot sprite, oops, sorry, not sprite value, string value followed by Mac sprite name dot string value. Okay. And then from there, it's a matter of just getting these things in order. So we're going to go ahead and say editor GUI indent level plus plus, and then at the end editor GUI dot indent level minus minus, and then we're going to go ahead and say position dot y plus equals position dot height plus editor GUI utility dot standard vertical spacing. And then we're basically going to just go ahead and get all of our fields to draw. And actually, oh, this is where it sucks. So I don't want all of the fields to show if we don't have a Mac version. So that means, essentially, I need to actually change this. So we're going to go ahead and do this, I guess. I guess what we'll do is we'll say property dot find property relative has Mac sprite. I think that's what we called it, right? Yeah. Dot bool value question mark. If it's that, it's going to be 8. Otherwise, we're going to knock off what 1, 2, 3. Yes. Okay, so that's going to be 5f, which means that we're going to do this basically. Oh, you know what, actually? It's going to be this. So with that, we're going to go ahead and say editor GUI dot property field, and then we're just going to go ahead and say position followed by property. I guess it'll be sprite name. Well, actually, now we don't need that, so I can just kind of like move the key code back up to be where it was. And then that means that we want to do the key, so that's going to be property.find property relative key. Okay. We're pretty much just going to do this a couple of times. So that's name, ID, and sprite. So this is going to be sprite name. This is going to be sprite ID. And this is going to be sprite. Okay, and then after that, we're going to say if pretty much this. So if that, then we're going to do this for pretty much everything else as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and say this is max sprite name, followed by max sprite ID, followed by max sprite. Okay, so that should do everything that we need. Let's go ahead and let that compile. So now if we go look at our data, it's not this, it's going to compile real quick. So all of these should basically reshuffle. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to refresh key scripts. Ooh, look at that. We got an index out of range exception. That's always good. What? What are you talking about? I am baffled. What is happening? Is this doing something stupid? Oh, right. It's because it's nothing. My CSV parser sucks. Okay, hold on. Right. So, okay. I guess what I should do here is just say if row string of j string dot is null or empty row string of j. So if that is the case, I suppose I should say row values. Oh, okay, I guess I would just do this then. So let's get rid of that. If not, that, and blah. Let's try that again. Yeah, I usually, most of my data stuff is parsed through JSON now, so CSV has kind of fallen to the wayside. I never really put too much effort into it to begin with. I really should change it. But, you know, worst comes to worst, I can always just switch over to using JSON. Okay, let's clear that. Let's try this again. We're going to refresh key sprites. There we are. Nice. So you can see that everything's looking good. Looks like our sprites are being listed. Sprite IDs are shown up correctly. If we have Mac options, then it will show up. If we don't, then it does not. Everything seems to be spaced correctly. Really? Huh. Interesting. Looks like left apple and left command are the exact same value, which is a little confusing, but I guess that kind of makes sense. Um, huh. Oh, whatever. Um, okay. So with that, I think we have our sprites mapped properly, which means that now we need to go back to here, not to the drawer or to the data, that's correct, but to our key binding inline sprites collection. And we're going to add public string get sprite tag. And we're going to pass in a key code. Key. We're just going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than key sprites dot length I plus plus. And then we're going to say return string dot empty. And we're just going to go ahead and say if key sprites of I dot key is equal to key, then we will return key sprites of I dot sprite text. Okay, and with that, we can finally go to, let's see, loading screen animation, loading screen flavor text. Here we are. All I'm going to do here is say serialize field, tooltip, private bool, validate keywords is equal to false. And we're just going to say if true will replace certain keywords when returning text. Okay. And for that, let's see, we have our validate keywords. That pretty much means that... Actually, you know what? I guess that's kind of irrelevant. Instead, I can just make this a key binding inline sprites collection. Nope. Well, no. Yeah, okay, that's good. So this will be key inline sprites is equal to null. Okay, and what I'm going to do there is when we call refresh, we're going to say flavor text of I is equal to text of I key messages. Oh, that's all fine. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to say if key inline sprites does not equal null, we're going to do something else. We will simply set it to be just that straight text value. And if it is null, or it's not null, then what we want to do is we basically want to search through for key phrases, which is going to be a little cumbersome, but it should work. So we're going to go ahead and say private void. No, I can't do that. Actually, this has to be done at runtime. So this is just going to be simple and stay the same right there. And instead, what that means is when we go down to here, we need to format it here. So we're going to say get, say private void format flavor text. This will take a string text. Okay, and for this we're going to say if key inline sprites does not equal null, blah, blah, blah. I guess actually we just do this. Return format flavor text based on index. Oh, right, sorry. Completely did that wrong. Flavor text of index. We'll pass that. Else, we'll do that. Oh, and that's going to be a string, right? Okay. So with that, this is going to throw an error for a little bit. Probably we can just get away with having this return straight up text. This is going to be super messy, which is why it's an optional thing. Because really only the generic hints flavor text is going to really need to do any formatting. The individual levels really shouldn't have to worry about it. So for now, let's see, our key codes are inventory key and submit key. So let's go ahead and we'll just kind of take the quick way out, and we're just going to say if text.contains, and then we'll give it this value, which I probably will make a constant later, but for now it's just going to be inventory key. Then we're going to say text is equal to text.replace inventory key. And here's where it gets fun. We're replacing inventory key with the actual sprite, which means that we need to do, let's see, key inline sprites dot get sprite text, and then we need to get the key, which means that we want to go to, I believe it's game settings dot, and then our inventory. Ah, no. Crap. Where do we load that? Because I forget. Go to definition here. Somewhere around here we actually have the key binding set up. Okay, there we are. So I got to remember how I was doing this now. So an int returns a key code, which means, give me a second here. Let's see, instance.load, key bindings. Okay, so let's find all references, bindings, in instance binding type. Okay, so I can just give it the key binding type. So we're going to go back to here. Here we are. So this is going to be, hold on, I've lost it already because I'm terrible. Game settings. Let's drag this over so I can see it. So key bindings, bindings. So key binding type is what it is. Okay. So it's going to be game settings dot key bindings of key binding type dot, and this is inventory. Okay. So that returns oh, hold on, peak definition. Oh, it's just bindings, that's right. Okay. And that needs to be an int value. Okay. Which then returns a key code, which then should get us our sprite text. Okay. Woof. So let's go ahead and copy that. We're going to paste that. And then we have, what was it? Submit key. Which is different a little bit. Submit key. Because this one can't actually be changed, which means that instead of doing this, we can just straight up say, get rid of this, and say key code dot return. Okay, so now we should be good. So we're going to let that compile. That should have it format correctly. And now I just need to change. Oh dear, where did I put it? My loading text for generic tips. Once it compiles, and while it's compiling, I'm going to take a drink. All right, so let's open this up, go to general, go to loading screen general. We don't have key binding inline sprites assigned yet. Of course, it's not going to find it because why would it ever? Let's assign that. We should be correct. Let's go ahead and I think we'll be fine there. We should be able to let that go. All right, I think we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into our splash fade. We're just going to start a new game. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to move these inventory keys to the front here and the submit key to the front just because I want to make sure that those actually work. So I'll reduce that down to 3. So we'll be able to instantly tell if this is correct. I'm hopeful that it will be. I honestly don't know. I'm willing to bet that the sprites are going to be a little wonky, but we'll see. Hopefully they'll look correct. I will be a little sad if I have to like fudge them a bunch to make them look correct with the rest of the sprites or the rest of the font, but it should at the very least swap in the sprites. I'm hopeful. Anyway. Okay. So we're going to do start, new game. Chris, yes. Normal, right-handed, green, and yes. Okay, so we have our initial flavor text, which is specific to the level. And once this fades out, the next one that fades in should be our formatted text. So close. Okay. So it's in the right spot. It's just offset weirdly. Which probably means that all of them are going to be like that. Okay, so this one's going to be flavor text again, and the next one should be the actual formatting. I'm wondering if I can offset those positions. Oof. I do like having these sprites though. I do think that looks much nicer. Let's go ahead and stop that. Let's look at our sprites. We don't need our default values. Sprites. Somewhere around here. Let's go ahead and close these because we don't really need these anymore. It should be. It's somewhere around here. Inline sprites. There. Okay, so enter is offset a little bit. So here's our x value, our y value, our width, our height. These are position, I want to say. Well, I'm not entirely sure if I can move these. It would be so nice if we had tooltips. I thought there was an option for me to have like kerning information. Because it looked like they were consistently offset, so it's not like each sprite has a different amount of offset. So I guess I could try to do that. Offset X. Maybe I can change this to have an offset X of 64? Or perhaps let's do 32 and 32. Questionable. It would be really nice if I knew what these stood for. Because I want to say that's advanced, and I don't know what SF stands for. So, questionable, but let's try that. So let's run through this again. See if giving them all an offset of 32 has helped or made it worse. It looked like they all had an offset of negative 64. 32 might push it too far the other way, but we'll see. I might have just wanted their offsets to be 0 and 0. Okay, let's see. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so I think we want to have an offset of 0 and 0. Pretty sure anyway. Maybe we want to have an offset of 0 and 64. So let's go ahead and stop that. So we're going to go back to here. Let's open this up so it's too far down. So let's give it an offset of 0 in the x and an offset of 64 in the y. I don't know if y is pushing it further down or up. Is part of that problem. Because I think they were all 32 before. Like before I made the change, I think when I made them 32, they were already 32. Yes, I see you, cat. So I think this should center them properly. Okay, let's see. Ooh, that's looking good. I guess the enter one will be our main test there. Because the keys are a little small, but I don't think it's too bad, really. Okay, so if this works, we'll probably call it a night, or a day, I guess. Okay, so it's a little too high. I think if I bump it down by 16, we'll be centered properly. Because ideally, I would just like to have it be centered. So let's go ahead just real quick. We'll do one more test. We're going to bump these down from 64 to, what would that be, 48, I think. That should lower it just a little bit. Okay. So let's go ahead and hit play, and I think we'll be good now. Because it looked like our squares are correct, and it looks like our rectangles are correct, so I think we'll be good. Okay. Let's see. It looks a little too low now. I have to bump it up a little bit higher, I guess. Hmm. Yeah. I think if I move it up by like 8, we'll be good. So it looks like 56 is kind of the Goldilocks spot for us. All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good place to stop for the night or for the day. So we didn't quite end up making it over to custom text adventures today. We got a little sidetracked by this new sprite system, but we now have support for swapping in sprites, specifically sprites representing specific keys on the keyboard, which will, I think, come in handy. It's a small touch overall, but having the keys be represented as actual keys in line with text, I think will help distinguish the keystrokes from specific lettering, if that makes sense. Just because there are times where I tell players, yeah, that looks way better. Where I tell players, like type open, for example, and open is in quotes, but well, I guess actually a better example of this would be like when I say press I to open the inventory. Um, I've noticed in some playtesting that people will open their input menu and then type I. They won't necessarily go straight for I. I think by having it be, yeah, that looks way better with that spacing. By having it be surrounded with that key boundary, that just makes it much more obvious that you're supposed to press a key as opposed to type an action into the input menu. So this is just a way for us to um, more easily convey, key presses versus entering text. So, yeah, I think that's actually a really nice thing. I think going forward, I'm going to be swapping this sprite stuff in with the rest of the tutorials and other key related string kind of displays. So that should just be a little bit nicer overall for players. I think it'll be a lot easier for players to understand that, when they see this press I, they understand that it doesn't mean type I into the input menu. So, all right, I think that's a pretty good place to stop for the day. Um, we got that sprite system in place for swapping that out, and we have the flavor text in loading screens now pulling in generic kind of gameplay tips in addition to the level-specific flavor text. So just overall, that'll be a little bit better, I think, for the player, just because it'll help to kind of reinvigorate them if they've left for a week or two and they come back and they're not sure, they've kind of forgotten some bits of gameplay. It'll be easier for them to pick back up. So, all right. I think that's a good place to stop for the day. So, announcements. We should be good for next week's Devstream time, which will be 7 p.m. Eastern time. Don't see any. I don't anticipate any problems there. Hopefully, work will not pull me away again. But as of right now, I think we'll be in a good spot. So, should be ready for our normal Devstream time next Tuesday. And that's pretty much it. So, as always, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.